Hello, everyone, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of July the 28th till August the 3rd, 2024. I am so very grateful and honored to be here once again to be a guest on Nadiya's channel. But at the same time, that also means that Nadiya is still recovering and that she's still not 100%. So I think I share the feeling of all of her fans, and superstars that we would rather like to see Nadiya and bask in her wisdom and her gift to the world. But until she gets better, I guess I have to do my very, very best to give you the best of the guidance that I possibly can. And actually, Nadia's situation is a perfect opening for for this horoscope because they're among so very many other energies that we will explore together in the coming minutes. There is one specific energy, one specific aspect that I really, really like, and that is Venus is going to hold a trine, a conversation of supreme harmony, as Nadiya used to say, with Chiron. Chiron retrograde in the sign of Aries. Now, this is such a perfect opportunity and perfect energy to send love. Venus, right? The principle of love, the principle of attraction, the passive element, which signifies everything that brings us pleasure, everything that brings us something benefic, the lower benefic, right? So a blessing. And in this case, with Chiron, the wounded healer, well, the power of love and expressing that our own unique and individual ways can be very, very, very healing. And also at the same time, Pluto hanging around at that 0 degrees of Aquarius, slowly but surely making his way onto that notorious 29 degrees of Capricorn. It's almost like Pluto has that lasers which you point to cats and they really love to chase it. He has his pointer on that 29 degrees of Capricorn and slowly but surely moving there. So it really emphasizes that Aquarian energy where he is in the present moment. But why is this important? Pluto is, roughly the symbol of power, right? Well, the power many times, especially with healing, with recovery, recuperation of any kind, lies within the individual Aries, Chiron in the sign of Aries, deeply within us, also deeply with our genes, our regenerative powers and our regeneration centers and everything that can, catalyze that. But there are sometimes situations in life when we do need the power of the collective. And this is very symbolic of Aquarius, the symbol of the collective itself. But Aquarius is a dual energy. It is both the collective, but also the primarily component of it, the individual. So this is such a perfect opportunity for us to exercise the power that Venus with Chiron bestow upon us, to send love, to send heartfelt wishes of healing, of recovery, of appreciation, gratitude, to express our love. It doesn't even have to be in a very material, real way, where material as in writing it down. Why? Because Anaretic Neptune at 29 degrees, very powerful, very strong, of Pisces, the sign of spirituality, gives us this unique power of empathy, our energy, our feeling, that piece of soul that we charge with love, with that desire, right? To send healing to another person and gratitude, appreciation. You get what I'm, the Leo stuff. So that which is really felt in the very deep corner, center, better said, of our hearts. That under this Neptune is very, 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 very powerful. Neptune and Pisces, the power of prayers, the power of dreams, the power of visualization, and any kind of spiritual activity fueled by compassion or anything Venusian love, well, it can truly do miracles. So, and this aspect perfects itself around the 30th of August. So, what an amazing opportunity for all of us to send Nadiya the energy of healing and love. And I'm very sure that this will empower her. So, thank you for so much for allowing me this moment. And before we dive onto the breakdown of the week, energetically speaking, because this is one of those weeks where we are going to have quite a numerous um, opportunities, numerous moments of inspiration, motivation, determination, like an infusion of optimism, of hope, of creativity, and, Venus in the sign of Leo. Not just Venus, of course, but the king himself, the sun, home in Leo. Well, this is always a really powerful period when passions, when that which we feel deeply in our hearts, when our creational energies and passions, when strong desires get us somewhere. Yes, of course, sometimes they may get us in trouble or they may stir up trouble, but that is also part of Leo. That is the shadow expression of Leo. And the other energy that is very, very, very useful and highly constructive is that the sun holds a sextile with Mars, Mars being in the sign of Gemini. And this is where we must remember that the sun is very comfortable, very powerful, home in Leo. And this sacred fire of the sun is fueled by the air of Gemini. So thoughts, words, communication, people, what people share, what people bring to the table, and Mars is the principle of action. So we can immediately see that words will be powerful, ideas, what we do with our intelligence will also get us a long way. Maybe not immediately. Why not immediately? The ruler of Gemini is Mercury, and Mercury entered Virgo already. And this week it is going to come to a standstill, and on the 4th of August, but I do believe that will be a separate horoscope. But anyway, on the 4th of August, it will start going retrograde. So this week, it will be quite slow until it comes to a standstill in its home sign of Virgo. Again, Mercury also is very, very powerful, very comfortable. But because it rules Gemini, it kind of is the executor of this energy. That means that this week might just mark the themes. It might dish out the opportunity in thought, communication. The idea is set. And then under this Mercury retrograde period, Mercury retrograde begins on, as I said, on the 4th of August, and it ends around the, let me just check my notes, on the 27th of August, and it will go back to 21 degrees of Leo. So this period might be a period where we have to really, really work on whatever the sextiles bring to our awareness this week, or whatever they inspire us to do, because this might be an internal energy, like that idea, the eureka moment, the shock and surprise, which is also going to be part of the week. So, long story short, there is quite a lot of positive, action oriented, constructive, problem solving energy. However, and also Leo, the sun in Leo, simply that. Well, usually it brings a bit of siesta, it brings a bit of lightheartedness, it brings that usually something is playing out on the stage of the world, the show, and the show also in our personal lives. within our friend circles or certain projects, certain hobbies, activities, the creational aspect of Leo energy. And Leo is also youth. So we are very youthful. Gemini, on the other hand, is adolescent. It is also very youthful, very lighthearted, very, very playful, humorous. So this energy gives a really positive and, as I said, summery Leo, August, um, summery vibe, summery tone, very young and lighthearted. But unfortunately, remember the duality of Aquarius, the big karmic powers, and of course the planets as well, are holding a very, very different tone. And that tone, the bass tone, is what matters the most. It's almost like, when someone uses a pitching fork, it sets the tone. And that tone is, as I said earlier a bit, Pluto in the sign of Aquarius at that 0 degree. Why is this very, very important and serious, very serious? Because that's the beginning degree of Aquarius, Pluto retrograde. It really emphasizes the shadowy side of the collective, of separation, duality, of extreme freedom, of what misuse of technology, internet communication can do. It also highlights what living very, very intensely in the head, in the mind, in Aquarius air sign, so intellectual and not really in the heart, the negative effects of that. There's so much that Pluto is highlighting right now. But that very same Pluto also speaks to us very personally because on the 21st, something like that, December 2020, we had the conjunction, the meeting of Saturn and Jupiter at that 0 degree of Aquarius, which opened up a new era, a new paradigm, especially that the majority of previous great conjunctions, and these great conjunctions happen every 20 years. So every 20 years, they give a base tone, as I say, but that 2020 Great Conjunction was extra special because it ended the cycle in Earth energy for the past 200 years, and it opened up a new cycle in air energy, Aquarius being the opener of this. So very, very new, very, very special. And this also means that we as a collective, and also individually speaking, this is so very new to us that we have no even ancient wisdom to report back to. No one prepared us for all of this is so new to us. So we are, basically the first generation, the first souls living this specific era and everything that comes with it, good and bad alike, Aquarius. So we are doing the best that we can. All of us, in a certain way, feel a bit lost, feel a bit totally an enigma. We might not know what lies ahead, and maybe all of our calculations and planning, because Aquarius, right? That's our higher goals, our aspirations, hopes and dreams, as they say. And those air sign, those very many times have, like a proper, the ancient ruling planet of Aquarius was Saturn, a proper structure to them, as in a plan, an anticipation, maybe calculations, why not air sign? But because of that great conjunction and Pluto being here, right now that doesn't work anymore. As in, we are trying our very best, but reality shifts so very quickly and unexpectedly, value-wise especially. Why? The ruler of all of this, Uranus, is in Taurus. Value and Venus. Venus is home sign, anything to do with how that value affects us. Love, may it be love, five senses, pleasure, or self-worth, psychology, even spiritual, nature, our connection to nature, agriculture, food, and everything that has to do with technology, Uranus, and the value of it or how it affects our natural way of being. So these are the, let's say, the key elements through which we feel the Pluto in Aquarius the deepest way possible. So you can imagine that that's quite serious, that's quite a tiny bit anxious, like anxiety. And this Uranus and Taurus also does unexpected things to the Schumann resonance. Now, if you don't know what I'm speaking about, just Google it and Wikipedia will tell you what it is. Very, very easy to, and you will get the Schumann resonance is like an electromagnetic constant, like a frequency of the earth, something like that. But we feel it. Our the brain's electromagnetic field senses spikes in that. So a bit of anxiety, a bit of restlessness, but the very same energy also gets us out of our comfort zone, into our genius, into our authenticity, into our freedom, our deeper creativity. However, the process of this is heavy and it's not so very easy. And the other reason why I mentioned the 0 degrees of Aquarius and the Great Conjunction is because this week we're going to be feeling the very, very, very first signs and expressions of the opening square of that meeting, where Jupiter and Saturn are slowly starting to build a square formation that will be more exact, if I'm not mistaken, on the 19th of August. But this is where we're already getting a glimpse of that, because the moon will perfect a square with Saturn this week, and we will feel emotionally we are being prepared, let's say it like that. And because the moon will be in the sign of Gemini, well, that also means information, communication, and a lot of thought, even a lot of overwhelming thought. But the overwhelm is going to be a constant as long as Jupiter and Mars are going to be in Gemini, because Jupiter expands and Mars is the urgency, and that it's the information is coming whether we like it or not, and people, friends, family, everyone wants something from us, to say something, ask something, share something, communicate, ask a favor. So we are going to be very, very busy, and this might lead to overwhelm. But again, and this is one of the best advices that I personally can give anyone for that square: sacred neutrality. We are aware of it, but we may not allow for the overwhelm to have a big grip on us, because we have to be masters of our own emotional response and reality. This Saturn retrograde in the sign of Pisces does ask us to be very, very strong and tough, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, to be our most mature and dignified self. But of course, we, according to our own soul standards, right? So for every single person, this will mean something totally different. So this, and Pluto, as I said earlier, it is aiming for that 29 degrees of Capricorn, which it will reach on the either 1st or 2nd September. So that's when a different type of intensity will begin. That's also intense. We are feeling that. Relevant things are going to be taking place all throughout the summer and autumn, and of course, even winter. Pluto comes back into Aquarius on the 19th of November. So this will be the period that will stay in the 29 degrees of Capricorn, but that will be intense because it's power, games. Capricorn is top-down authority, governments, big corporations, big anything, big organization, and everything that basically supports is the backbone of civilization and society in so very many different ways. Pluto, the wrecking ball, the power of change and transformation. So we just know. And personally speaking, what might have been set up, let's say, in your life in February, if I'm not mistaken, 2023, maybe that Pluto might touch on that again. But after this long introduction, I will share my screen with you and let's go through the energies of the week because there are so many opportunities here. Right at the beginning of the week, the Mars and Sun sextile, and I really, really love this energy because it is so highly constructive. Communication, negotiations, and because Venus is in the sign of Leo, when it comes to value, the values of the heart, what we are passionate about, it's our passions are attractive almost in a quantum way. They just bring into our reality everything that we love, we like, we would like to maybe have, because Venus possession, accomplish, or live through. This can also be a romantic energy because Venus and Leo are highly flirtatious due to the Gemini connection. And the power of sharing, the power of communication in a romantic sense, in a sensual sense. So it's gonna be really, really steamy this week. However, this is like a big warning. Be careful what you say, what you promise, or how much you allow yourself to immerse into, as I said, flirt or things which are not real, which are either a game or just not so serious. Neptune and Heretic. Neptune and Heretic can suck us into fantasy and illusion. It doesn't matter how serious we are. It doesn't even matter if we are not the naive archetype. Neptune and Heretic can suck us in like a whirlpool, and we won't even know it. So let's be very careful because later on in the week, and I'll get to this, but this is just the warning, Venus will square Uranus, Uranus being in Venus's home sign of Taurus. So Venus is really shaken up. Be careful what we promise or what we believe. Let's be careful because it might get serious and there might be surprise moments. So this week, even though it is really good for communication, for, let's say, thinking about stuff, exploring, analyzing, um, consulting other people's experiences and opinions, playing with thoughts and energies, and as I said, negotiating. Maybe it's not very ideal for a final decision time, to lock something in as a final decision. For analysis, yes. For a big decision, no. Because Uranus squaring this Venus, things might not go as we think. Things might not feel as we think. Or passion center. Today our hearts burn with passion. Tomorrow, not so much. And without the fuel of passion and love and sensuality, relationship situations or anything, a job offer, like something very real and practical, may seem so different. With love, it seems so Neptunian, so alluring, so yes, I want to do this. I want to go all in. Leo, the sign of risk taking. Without the love and the passion and the rose tint, I'm not sure if I want to invest that much energy into it. Moon squaring at one point Saturn, right? So, and it's not a good week for big hairdo changes, big cosmetic changes, radical aesthetic changes. Neither, as I said, to make big promises and love, or because Venus squaring Uranus, it can go either way. Neither is it for massive love declarations. Even though this is the tricky part. Jupiter in Gemini and Mars in Gemini, especially remember Mars sextile the Sun. It might seem that it's a good idea. We might feel it inside. We might feel ready. But when the words come out, or the surprise, or whatever, it might go totally differently. So let's not risk it. Let's allow Venus to actually exit Leo totally. Why? Because when Venus will get to an 29 degree of Leo, the square with Uranus is not a big deal already because it's very, very barely operational. But it will hold the quincunx with Neptune, and that's also where a quincunx is an energy where things can go randomly, weirdly, unexpectedly. It doesn't make sense. So let us wait. And then under Mercury retrograde, especially that Mercury will touch back into Leo, the heart figuring out if we love it or not. Or the heart is there, then comes the mind. Is it does it make sense for us to love something the way we do? Or do we have to change the theme, the note, the modus operandi, Mercury, right? So let us be very patient. It's a good week to explore and to embrace opportunities in the sense that let me think about this. Let me see what I can make with this, but not a good week for fixed promises, and to signing big contract unless it's fated. If it's fated, then it's a completion. So it is what it is. If it's very, very optional, if you can delay. Mercury is not retrograde yet, but it's almost. So it's already, the shadowy part of Mercury is already very ongoing. And also, speaking about Mercury, Mercury almost, as in it does, but not quite, starts holding a square with Mars in Gemini, Mercury, and Virgo, and Mercury rules both. So, but as I said, the square is not going to perfect because Mercury goes retrograde and it's also very slow all through the week, and Mars is not so slow. So, the difference of the speed will not allow the square to perfect. But exactly what I said earlier, that's the square. Let's not hurry. Let's not make promises. Let's allow things time to settle down, or in any way, shape, and form, anoretic Neptune. There is always a fata morgana to anything right now in our reality. Anything. And that's okay as long as we know how to use that energy. It's not okay to blindly dive into anything. Like, let me give you the worst possible expression of that anoretic Neptune. Religious fanaticism. If we are totally blind to a type of mercurial rationing, Virgo is the opposite sign of Pisces, right? Then it can lead to dark roads and paths. The darkness is the dual nature of Pisces. It's the spirit and art, but it also has a dark side. So, for example, psychopaths, or that's Pisces very much. Piscean energy went totally wrong. And at the 29 degrees of Pisces, there is a really, I don't necessarily want to say evil, but unfortunate fixed star, which is very sorrowful. Long story short, is the epitome of the victim mentality, that fixed star. So Neptune hangs around there. Why? It wants to really kick us out, deluge us out from victim mentality, collectively speaking, especially. So under this Neptune, so very many symbolic crimes happen. Why crimes? Well, that's the darkest realm of Pisces. The I'm not sure if I'm even allowed to use this word, the evil or the insanity that fuels certain crimes. And those crimes, Pisces, the distant past, the discrimination type of crimes, or I better not continue because you get just turn on the news. Don't, but if you want to find out, turn on the news and you'll see the discriminatory type of crimes and murders and the misuse of Saturn in Pisces, moral and law enforcement, for example. Yes. So even though what I really want to say, Mars sextile the Sun is very superb energy. We must also take into consideration the Mars square Mercury, even though it's not perfecting. We must be careful and not to rush things. And also Mars in Gemini, words. Mars can sometimes be very angry. Angry words, let's be careful. Let us really think before we say it. Words can wound. Words, Venus trying Chiron, as words and love and gestures can heal, sometimes words can very much wound. So there's that part of the energy. And something that I find so uh, specific to Mars in Gemini, Mars competition, the Olympic Games, Gemini on the news, so out there. A lot of symbolic things are going to be happening under the Olympic Games, and Gemini is dual, both symbolic in a really nice and inspirational sense, and also symbolic of the, I don't know, conspiracy and, the other type of sense. Now, another date that I would like to highlight, moving on to the 30th of August, a lot happens on this date, a lot of important elements. One of them is Venus, the trine, Venus, Chiron, trine. Chiron, remember, is retrograde, healing. But and I'm not gonna speak about this further because I said so much at the beginning of this horoscope. The power of healing, love heals, appreciation heals, generosity heals, affection heals, lightheartedness, the energy of innocence, the childlike energy heals. And this is also the Chiron Trivenus, a cry out that, because remember, Leo was the opposite sign of Aquarius, and Pluto highlights the darkest side of Aquarius, especially when it goes retrograde. It highlights that we really, really need to take care of our children, of our youth, collectively speaking, not us individually as parents, but collectively as a species, we really need to give not just Aquarius, technology, information, know-how, scientific research, quantum, whatever, mind over matter, let's say, to our youth, to our young. What we really need to give is love, a lot of love, pure and as innocent love and as unconditional love that we can possibly give. And Saturn and Pisces, because Neptune is that unconditional love. Saturn in the sign of Pisces also means when expressing love means not to allow or not to do something. So sometimes true love is not allowing, for example, a child to go down a dark path, even if that means hurting their feelings. Saturn in the sign of Pisces. If you know that something is a, but at the other side of the coin, sometimes there's nothing we can do. There's apps sometimes when we know that a person is gonna go down a dark road and the situation is such that our hands are tied. That's like karma. That's where the divine ones that so to choose their own path and there's nothing we can. That's also Saturn in Pisces to acknowledge when there we cannot help anymore, when we cannot intervene. And this is also a part of this energy, not just this week, but the whole summer. to know when we can and when our actions or whatever, Pisces compassion, is very, very useful and helpful. And also to know when either we can't intervene because we can't, or the road to hell many times is paved with good intentions. Saturn wants to teach us that in through different modalities. Let's call it like that. And another energy that really supports healing on this 30th of July. I do believe I said earlier 30th of August. July is what I mean because we're not in August yet. Um, what really supports this energy is Mars conjunct the moon. And remember, even if, though the sextile is not perfect, they're still sextiling the sun. So the sun, the passion, the truth, the power of the heart, and even uh, in a much more material sense, light can represent visibility, the spotlight, in an actual sense, that something is under the public eye or revealed. And creativity, what creativity does, the effect of creativity, and an invisible energy. I'll just show you, is white moon Selena being part of that trip. So it's a triple conjunction here. What is white moon Selena? I guess that everyone who listens to this as a Nadia's viewers know what Black Moon Lilith is. She is like a fictional energy based on a calculation, the dark side of the moon, our most primal, rudimentary, survival based or sexual, the lowest emotions. White Moon Selena is exactly the opposite, the highest possible expressions of emotion or the soul. Let me give you the simplest example that everyone will immediately understand. The love of a mother moon, right? Mother can do miracles in actually a literal sense. Uh, let's just look at nature. Uh, Motherly, you might call that instinct actually in nature, but I don't know. It seems to me, and this is just my very subjective opinion, that, for example, dogs, cats, dolphins, so very many animals actually have love because we can feel it. We can act. So I don't know what the scientific world says about this, but I personally can feel the love of animals. So even in nature, a mother's love can really turn a situation around, if you know what I mean. So that's White Moon Selena. What our souls can really, really do as an elevators to a sacred emotion. When an emotion becomes a sacred frequency, when we elevate it, it it will depend where a Selena is in which part of the sky. In Gemini, it says a sacred thought, a thought that is so loving or so full of a sacred principle, or Gemini sometimes is our perception in the sense, how do we interpret reality? We might give to something that we perceive, especially mentally, mercurially, such a divine interpretation that that thought reaches immediately the heart of the divine and it does something with it. Put this into context. Sextiling the sun in Leo, the power of love. Loving words, poetry, or expressing your love in a certain way, that can really do miracles at this time. But when I say love, in order to activate White Moon Selena, it really, really has to be that almost divine or Christ consciousness type of love. So again, let us send our wishes, our love, and our prayers of healing to Nadiya. And not just Nadiya, everyone in the world or every situation that needs it. Why? Because the moon, and I'm speaking about the real moon, the celestial body moon, is all throughout the week is making his way to form the new moon in the sign of Leo, a very, very heart-centered new moon. And I want to say just a, a curiosity about it. It conjuncts asteroid named Sours. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. An asteroid which was named after a very, very famous scientist who had breakthroughs in propulsion, so aviation, but also space exploration, had a big developing moment due to his work. So again, this new moon, emotionally, creatively, or in which one way or another will propulse us into something, and we will see big development in aviation or space travel technology. So thank you for this moment. This is where the magic lies. You know, the moon this week without a shadow of a doubt. So let us move on to the 31st of July, where we have the Saturn and Moon square that I spoke about earlier. This will really give us a preview of what this Jupiter and upcoming Jupiter Saturn, the first part of it at least, is gonna feel like for us personally. On in a nutshell, how did your worldview, big life uh, beliefs and principles, philosophies, your deep faith, the deep structure of, how should I even say, the very pylons of your understanding of the world and everything in it. How did those evolve, change, at least aspirationally, starting from December 2020? How, in which direction is your worldview going towards? This square will build on that. Jupiter and Gemini, the super practical, what is true, what is applicable, what is rooted in actual reality. Saturn in Pisces, what is rooted in principle and spirit in our inner world, purely subjectively, and that will be so, which means we have to give something a meaning. And the square, we need to find a big meaning or a big working balance for us personally between the element of this hyper rational analytic mind and our philosophies and our inner world, our psyche. Individually, that's very clear. What do we believe? Or in which way is something true for us? In which way is it not so true? How there are so very many things in life that we have to integrate. Need to, there is a big truth, and we need to integrate it in the self, because that truth will look in a certain way for us individually speaking. So this period and also this week is a massive period of integration. Mars and Jupiter. Jupiter's extended stay in Gemini until either the very end of May or the beginning of June next year, 2025, I do believe. So that's what Jupiter is doing, teaching us through trial and error, through up and down, Gemini, the duality, through black and white sometimes, uh, contrasts many times, or opposites, where the right balance of perception, way of thinking, autopiloting the mind, what works for us and what doesn't. And Saturn in Pisces which principles are useful in which degree. Because if we are over principalistic, we can simply not work with Gemini energy because it will defeat it immediately. So we need a good balance. But if we are way too, how should I say, rooted just in cold, hard, mathematical reality, then we cannot tap into Pisces. And all the strength and big wisdom and big karmic closures of Saturn in Pisces, the wisdom that they reflect every the way to take Pisces, everything that happens there, besides karma and fantasy art or whatever, is also a mirror. When looking in that mirror, you see how the divine perceives something, if that makes sense. So again, this week is really good for that. Other energies that I find very important. The sun holds a trine with the North Node in Aries. Fire, again, another superb fire trine. The passion, the light within the heart, the impulse, the courage, the motivation, the inner juice, basically, the inner fuel to get us going. And this might provide us sometimes with even patience, because the North Node in Aries is usually not the epitome of patience. It's impossible. A trine is a blessing. Sometimes the blessing is exactly to find a way to do something with the flare up of the energy in such a way that we use it, yet still stay patient. Contain it. Sometimes that is how the blessing comes, because the sun is illuminatory. It basically shines a light. And the North Node in Aries, of course, is very individual. Our individual journeys, how we are evolving, where we are going. Of course, this is always the North Node in any sign, in any situation. But in Aries, exactly that initiation, that big moment of mustering the strength and breaking through. And it's also very individual, self-centered. Our survival, this is where Aries, we cannot be strong for another person if we don't do certain necessary things for ourselves in a proper way, in an empowered way. So, like it or not, this energy, until we have this North Node in Aries, I do believe until February, something like that, 2025. And I'm so sorry if I'm mistaken. Um, it has to be a bit self-centered. For some people, it's very uncomfortable. For others, it's very uncomfortable to limit this so that it doesn't become egotic, self-centered. For some people, the big fight is to contain the ego, because this energy can really feed the ego like on a silver tray, all you can eat buffet. That's the shadow side of it. I know it's a trine, but the sun in Leo, it's also about the ego. It's also about being the star of your king of the castle, star of the show, and so on. So, and especially the sextile it holds with Mars, that is also very ego feeding, especially because, empowering words and creativity and love, someone's the recipient of that. So we feed them. And this also means the sun sextiles the South Node in Libra, the wisdom of the past that we are applying in our contracts, one-on-one alliances, and relationships. Not repeating the mistakes of the past is very wise and adds a good touch of Leo energy, harmony into our actions and choices, even the smaller ones. Moving on to the 30, no, sorry, the 1st of August, finally, we're in August. There we have the Venus, the perfecting, even though on my screen it's not perfect yet. But trust me that on this day, it's going to perfect the Venus-Uranus square. I'm not going to detail this all that much because I spoke about this already. Not a good period for radical cosmetic changes, wardrobe changes, hair changes, to shave your head or to radically dye your hair, etc. Leo rules hair. But at the same time, put this into any context. Venus, including money, big spending. Something might really catch your eye, but chances are that for one reason or another, if you possibly can't wait until the end of Mercury retrograde, even uh, until I do believe something mid-September, until Mercury actually moves out of its shadow to make safe and sound decisions, or the situation might change. Something that is really expensive now, because Uranus and Venus together in this conversation, prices, economy, anything that has to do with money, the flow of money, especially value-wise, are very, very fluctuating. It's instability. It's a certain kind of chaos. That means that things can reach sky high prices, and currency and cryptocurrency and stuff like that. It can also dramatically fall. So when we have this energy between Venus and Uranus, until Venus is in Taurus especially, there are going to be very, very short-lived, small, almost like quantum windows of opportunity when something insanely expensive is going to be ridiculously cheap. Okay, maybe from a million people, only one will be able to seize that opportunity, but that's how this energy plays out. There is going to be one lucky person, but that also means there was someone unlucky. You know, luck is very fluctuating. Jupiter in Gemini dual, up and down, and then Venus, the lower benefic. So it's all, Venus has her own relationship with luck, square Uranus. So the best way to navigate this energy is to be patient and be uh, very, very aware. You know, that's the best thing. Let's not have any expectations. Let's just be open to surprises. So that's the best way to navigate through this. And this can also be about conflicting values. There, going back to the example, you want to really buy something expensive because it just triggers something within you. What if you are prepared to buy something expensive, and when you get there, there's something else that reaches your eye? And the impossibility, which one do I buy? What I originally wanted, and I have the money for it, and I want to invest in it, I'm ready for it. But all of a sudden, out of the blue, now there's something else, and I don't know what to do. Mercury retrograde. Which one will you love more? And then when Mercury moves back into Virgo, that's the practical numbers, facts, figures. What would work better for you? So unexpected opportunities, yes, but they need processing and contemplation. And another energy that I would like to really mention at the same time, the very same Venus, or let's move on to I do believe 2nd of August, because we'll see it better. On the 2nd of August, well, Venus holds a trine with Eris. Let me show Eris. Eris is in the sign of Aries. It is a dwarf planet, a trans-Neptunian object, quite a distant one. The more distant from the sun, the more powerful. And the best way to perceive trans-Neptunian objects is like Pluto's family, Pluto's brothers and sisters, and Pluto's comrades. They're similar to Pluto, even physically. roughly close, close to Pluto's density. Of course, they vary very much. Roughly Pluto's size. Many of them are very similar to Pluto, that they're a system. Pluto is Pluto-Charon system because it has a moon. Many of these have moons. Eris particularly does have a moon. Eris is very similar to Pluto in diameter, but it's further away from the sun. And Eris is goddess of discord. Eris is the rebel. In mythology, she was the only goddess not to be invited to a wedding on Mount Olympus. She went anyway, and the way she turned everything into pure chaos was not through force, was not through any other means, but the power of the raw truth that can really stir ego. Exactly the Leo, Sun in Leo. She threw a gold apple into the crowd of the wedding and said for the fairest. And that's it. That's all she did. You can imagine we're speaking about deities, gods, demigods. Who is fairest? Everyone is fair, but who is fairest? How is that even determinable? So that led to a massive conflict and brawl and insults. And so Eris basically, through a single gesture of raw truth, conquered a whole pantheon. So basically, Eris conquered the whole of creation through a gesture of truth. Why is this important? Well, remember Venus squaring Uranus at the same time. Uranus the rebel, unexpected chaos. Eris is also that, very much, but in a female form. One is a square, Uranus. Other is a trine. But Aries is very self, within our genes, within our instincts, the sudden impulse of the situation. So this energy is tricky and it will send us to chaos. Eris would represent how to respond to the chaos of Uranus. That's how I personally interpret this energy. Eris is where no matter what Uranus throws onto the table, we can still have an instinct, a gut feeling, a wisdom. We can respond to external chaos with creative inner chaos. Eris is the patron saint of creational chaos. My horoscope is a prime example of creational chaos because I'm using intuitive astrology. Astrology, but intuition counts just as much as the astrological knowledge. That's very much like, and this is the realm of Venus. And Eris is also a fiery energy in a fire sign. So, but going to values, money, this can represent exactly what I said earlier. That lucky person who can buy something insanely, ridiculously, impossibly expensive for a very modest amount of money. One person's luck will bet, sorry, not like this. One person's misfortune is going to be another person's luck. However, remember Pluto, misfortune is a purging factor. So if the universe takes something from us, especially something material or a feeling, let's say, thank you for taking this and not a limb, not my health, not my sanity, not my insert here, something that is very, very valuable to you. So there's this way to look at the energy. Thank you for not taking that which is more sacred to me. So this goes money, job, items, jewelry, love declaration, sensual part of a relationship. For example, this can be purely psychological. There's a couple, long-term couple. they have to admit the truth that their sensual life is not gonna go anywhere all that special, but there is Eris trine Venus. It doesn't really have to, because that will still not change anything else of their relationship, especially their common goals in life. You see what I mean? And the fact that the sensual breaks down a bit, it can simply give more power to other things they love about in each other and the common goals and common creativity. So there it is. And another energy that I would like to speak about at the same time, uh, Mars sextiling the North Node, and this is important because the North Node is in Mars's home sign of Aries, empowerment. The North Node being touched like this by the Sun and then by Mars, it is almost like we're the universe directly through our communications, mental sphere perceptions, but also heart space, feeling, passions, what happens, the intelligence within our heart, because the heart is also an intelligent organ. Sometimes the heart has real, proper, actual knowledge and wisdom to it, not just the mind. It asks us either to keep on going, hold our ground, be patient, push through, work, create, trust the creation process, trust the inner creative chaos. Whatever you are being asked of, it is something positive, and it is the key through the breakthrough all of us are working towards. So this is how I see the Mars and North node and Mars trine South node, which means the relationships that we have already worked on, changed, transformed, released, or perfected, those reward us in the present. Another energy that I find so very interesting, and I would just like to move ahead a day, is Uranus holding a trine to Juno. It squares Venus, but it trines Juno, being in the sign of Virgo. Juno is asteroid of partnerships. So whatever chaos, whatever change of heart, feeling, passion, or however this energy plays out, this Uranus and Venus square plays out in your life, know that in behind the scenes, Uranus is actually providing you with truth, stark, deep truth about your relationship patterns, and what is authentic to you and what is authentic to another person. And if this simply doesn't match, Uranus with Juno helps to find a middle path, a compromise, a, a solution that no one has ever thought before, especially if this is like a partnership or contract or anything where it's one on one. So I really, really like this energy. And also, maybe one partnership breaks down, Uranus square Venus, another one might just come out of the blue. And this energy is also where uh, Juno in Virgo, that means the service, people who serve. So this means a professional, your psychologist, astrologer, plumber, doctor, you get where I'm going with this. A person like that may become the greatest ally or a friend or Uranus. Surprise, surprise. Things are going a bit further than that, if you know what I mean. That can also be like an emotional shock, a surprise. So for some people, this is where they will simply wake up that their relationship with their professional, whatever that service is, becomes a bit friendlier or closer or more sensual than expected. Especially the awkward side is that this Venus holds a semi-sextile with Juno. A semi-sextile is a minor aspect where it means the sextile part. Well, I'm working with this, like it or not, because it's happening, but it's also awkward. It's also, oh, it's so weird, or it's dichotomous, perhaps. And another energy is, and this I find is so important, and so few astrologers talk about this. Jupiter holds a conversation of tension, a square with dwarf planet Orcus. Orcus is like an anti-Pluto. Pluto changes stuff around, eliminates, but that is transformation, change. It reveals corruption. It transforms something from a state to another. Orcus doesn't transform. Either it eliminates, either it's bye-bye, you had your time, I can't fix you anymore, or it does that, reverts it to the original state, fixes something. But it's also the god of an underworld. It's exactly like Pluto, Hades slash Hades, just that in a different mythology, culture. But it's the god of the underworld, the gate to the abyss. And physically speaking, it's very, very similar to Pluto because it's a system. It's called Orcus Vanth, where Pluto's moon is Charon. Charon's mythology, it is the charioteer or the gondolier or the who helps the souls cause the river Styx, or in other versions of the myth, another river of the dead, and you kind of have to pay him a coin to cross over. Um, Vanth, in Orcus's case, is a guardian deity, like a demoness who is benevolent. So it is like a familiar, like a guardian spirit from the infernal realms. So Orcus is notorious to inflict heavy punishment on oath breakers. So Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. Jupiter is very much about oath as well. Jupiter rules the law. Jupiter is the principle that empowers legally binding contracts, right? The law of it, the legislation, the higher um, principle of that, of contracts and all of that. They're rooted in divine truth, right? All of that is Jupiter. And Orcus, again, oath. So this is where this energy, at least legally speaking, will really have the tendency to highlight oath breakers. And what is oath breaker? For example, if a politician promises something and doesn't deliver, there it is. So there is going to be a lot of discussion, turmoil, heated debates. You lied. No, you lied, or a barrage of lies or accusations on the world stage and covered by media. But also Orcus and Virgo, it comes with facts. Remember, Orcus either wants to restore totally to the original form, to heal, or it will eliminate. There's no transformation in that sense. The anti-Pluto quality of it. So, and remember that Jupiter not so long ago actually trined Pluto. That trine was either you transform or Orcus will get you. And this is the moment when Orcus gets whatever that is. But individually speaking, this is a really, really, really good energy because it is a square. So it's motivational. It will help us to find compromises and middle path even to the most difficult of problems. Or it can help us fix something, restore something, relearn something, Gemini, especially Jupiter. And last but not least, asteroid Ceres, along with another dwarf planet named Quaoar, also square the nodes of the moon. And this energy I find very, very important because Ceres, on one hand, is about goddess of grain, right? Goddess of agriculture. So the way I see this is food. And we know that there is food crisis, food shortage in so very many food crises in so very many parts of the world due to different reasons: war, calamities, pests, insects, etc., etc. And because Ceres is in Capricorn, top-down authority, we need to find, or authority needs to find solutions, urgent solutions for all of this, right? And Quaoar, it is a creational deity. It is a symbol of song and dance and drum, the power of sound in an elevated, because remember, all of these dwarf planets are like similar to Pluto. So not very straightforward, but rather deeply philosophical, deeply karmic, deeply spiritual, and mostly collective, very collective. The power of sound can heal. So I would imagine that the way this square plays out, people will organize like artists, the power of sound, right? Concerts for humanitarian purposes. So I think this concludes my analysis of this week's energies. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you so much, Nadiya, for inviting me. And it is such a great honor and pleasure. And let us remember the power of love. And Pluto and Aquarius really asked us to be the rulers of our own reality. And the Leo empowerment, along with the upcoming new moon, truly asks us to be the love in the world, be the creational force, healing force in the world, our own unique way. So let us send our healing to Nadiya. Thank you, everyone. Until next time, bye for now.